Sit! Welcome to the Dynasty Nerds Fantasy Football Podcast, where we discuss Dynasty strategy, rankings, and all things NFL. So get ready to geek out on fantasy football with your host, Rich Dotson.
And welcome to the Dynasty Nerds Fantasy Football Podcast, Risers and Ballers edition. I'm Rich Dotson. He's Garrett Price.
How's it going?
Pretty good. You know, as we get later in the season here, I think some of these risers, we'll talk about some, but a lot of injuries this week to kind of go over, which will be the heart of this show and kind of talking about them from that standpoint. Because it's the biggest part of a rise and a fall is injuries, right? Because it's opportunity. Yeah. We had some brutal ones this week, unfortunately, and we can start off at at the top. Tucker Kraft got hurt. He tears his ACL. Absolutely devastating for any kind of contender. Anybody that has Tucker Kraft, he's going to go down. And on the same topic, they lost Matthew Golden. We don't know how long Matthew Golden's going to be out. I know he had that shoulder injury, so he'd be out for a week. It's an AC sprain. Usually takes about, it costs you a week, maybe two, but you lose a guy like Tucker Kraft, who's the number one weapon in your offense, use him for the year, which is devastating. If there's an avenue for this, for like a rise candidate, right? Like you're really looking at Luke Musgrave, the tight end, was actually drafted ahead of Tucker Kraft, and a very competent tight end, right? Like a move tight end, a player that we actually like this tape a lot, a son of a coach. And we see that this offense runs through the tight end a lot. And we saw when Tucker Kraft went down, like how they distributed the ball. I do think Christian Watson's a big win here too. We saw Romeo Doubs receive a little bit over like 21% of the targets, but number two in target share after Kraft went down were Luke Musgrave and Christian Watson. They saw both about 11% of a target share. So Luke Musgrave, if he's available somewhere, whether it be waiver wire, via trade, that's a great option to go get if he's on your bench for a target share standpoint. And we'll see how this offense is going to run. They spread the ball around a lot, but we know they like to run through the tight end. When it comes to receivers, Brian Thomas and Travis Hunter both lost in a matter of 5 days of each other. Travis Hunter out of nowhere goes on the IR with a knee injury. Dude. Non-contact. Reports are his ACL's intact, which is great, but he's on IR, so he's missing a minimum of 4 games. So we'll see how that rolls out. And then in this week's game, it looks like Brian Thomas goes down with an ankle. It did look like a high ankle injury, so that's no bueno, because that's usually anywhere from a 4 to 6 week injury. So this obviously propels Parker Washington to the top, right? Like this is a player now that has a great opportunity to like legitimately help your fantasy teams, your dynasty teams. Parker Washington will be the number one player in this offense, a team that's going to probably be, in most games, like where they're not just out ahead most games. They're going to be in a lot of these games. Parker Washington really steps up here and gives a lot of people an opportunity to get some dubs if he's available. Kayshon Boutte has a shoulder, or what's Kayshon Boutte's?
Hamstring
for Boutte. Doesn't really kill too much. CJ Stroud concussion. We'll see how long that is. And then the most, not the most devastating, because some people could argue Tucker Kraft is the most devastating. We lose Jayden Daniels. His arm goes the wrong direction, which is never a good sign. Thank the lords of football, it's not his throwing arm. Devastating RG3. Like this is the best case about this is it's not his throwing arm, so there's nothing that's going to affect him long-term quarterback standpoint. But man, his arm looks like one of those alien legs going the wrong way, and that's never, ever a good sign. Absolutely brutal injury. I have no idea when we'll see him again. If we will see him again, probably maybe at the end of the year, possibly. I don't know what you guys would think about a backwards elbow. It was dislocated.
I mean, we'll have to see where this team's even at that point.
That's what I'm saying.
There's really no point to like rush him back. And with how they've looked recently, and it just kind of feels like a lost year for the Commanders. Terry's been missing a bunch of time. Debo's been in and out. Krusky Merritt's not performed like you expected. Like just this whole offense has just been a mess the entire year, really.
Yeah. They don't want to RG3 him, and I know he hates that. He brought up a complaint, but it's like, yeah, dude, just sit this one out, get better. We'll regroup in 2026,
Yep, 100%.
A fall though, talking about, we've been talking about the rise of Jackson Dart, the rise of Drake May, with his lighter frame. This is a guy who I had as my super flex 1-1. If he's gonna miss the rest of the year, I slid Jayden Daniels down a little bit. Like, how is he going to look when this team starts to get, as this team ages out around him? How is he going to like recoup and get the fantasy greatness again? Like, if you're drafting today, who do you feel more comfortable? Do you ride the hot hand of Drake May, who's younger, or Jayden Daniels? Right? Like,
it's close, dude.
It's very close. So, all this matters. Like, all the time frame matters of a player on the field and what they're going to give you and their health status, because you are in a finite time frame of dynasty usage here. Like, that's why every year when you use a running back, even a guy like Cam Scatteraboo, like if they're out for the year, when a running back's going to have a running back one season, maybe once, twice, if they're lucky, 3 times in their entire career, like they're only going to play in this 4 to 5 year window. If they're playing a 4-year window and he loses a year, he just lost 25% of his entire fantasy overall value of his output that you're going to get from a starting standpoint. Like, so these time frames do matter. And Jayden Daniels is going to essentially miss the entire year at this point, coming back from those other injuries. So another bad week happens. We got lucky the 1 week, but part of the game. Players go down every single week, and we only really talk about the studs from an offensive standpoint. But we lost another good group of solid players this week.
Absolutely. Well, that brings us into our risers and fallers of the week, and let's start with the fallers this week. Let's end on a happy note this week. So we'll start with the fallers this week, and we had some candidates that they're falling a little bit, but not really, not in our actual ranking. So you got guys like Keenan, Travion, George Kittle, Brian Thomas, but at this point they've either fallen as far as they're going to fall, or we're not too concerned about them, or so for the most part, that group didn't change much. And even the 3 we have, they're not these drastic, like, oh my gosh, they're plummeting down my rankings, but they are definitely names that we need to discuss. So let's start with the guy that we actually kind of had a tie for 3rd place here, but we'll start with Evan Engram. Evan Engram, coming into the year, Rich, I know you and I both, I don't know where you were at on this, Jagger, but we were both pretty high on Evan Engram. We thought great fit in the offense. We've seen Sean Payton utilize tight ends. We've seen him utilize guys that fit that joker role, which, Evan Engram seemingly would have a good shot to do. It was arguably down to him or RJ Harvey. And, so there was a lot of positive buzz about Evan Engram, and it just has not panned out this past week. 0 points. He only has 1 double-digit game all season. And Jagger, we got you in here, man. Like, what are your thoughts on Evan Engram?
Maybe the Joker role was on us all along, guys, because I was just like you with it, where I didn't feel like there was a reason not to be high on him. He was productive at the Jaguars, and he fits the profile of a type of tight end, the move tight ends that are mainly just mismatched receivers. They're not out there blocking, that Sean Payton loves. And that goes all the way to RJ Harvey. And we haven't really gotten that from Evan Engram at all. And you could have blamed health the first couple of weeks, but now, I put in the group chat, he's basically dead for fantasy because he's over the hill and he's not producing in an offense where, if you're going to be a joker tight end, why not be in the offense that kind of invented that role,
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think, Rich?
At this point of the season, you could see, again, we talk about all the time, like how offenses are going to run, and how somebody's going to be utilized. And Evan Engram is dead. I mean, for this standpoint, in the offense, as long as he's in Denver, he's dead. There's been rumors out there for a week that the Broncos are looking to trade for a tight end, as well, which is a little wild. And sometimes players just don't fit an offense. And I think it's as clear as day now that Evan Engram does not fit Sean Payton's role of what he wants out of a tight end. And it kind of just is what it is. He's an older tight end. 1 good year in New York, 2 really good years in Jacksonville is what you got out of him. But Troy Franklin has emerged as like the number 1 in this offense, almost from a fantasy standpoint. And then you have Cortland Sutton mixed in with, a little bit of Pat Bryant, Marvin Mims. And, what they're really utilizing in that Joker role, really, it's kind of like RJ Harvey. Definitely, we're not running out there in those kind of routes like that. Halfback role that Evan Engram could have found some success with that Joker role. So, yeah, Evan Engram from a dynasty standpoint, fantasy standpoint, to me is DOA. Maybe he gets moved in like a tight end swap or something along those lines. Maybe finds a place next year. And can still be that older tight end that kind of produces. We do see that hold value in Dynasty at some point. But at this point, I would not put Evan Engram in my lineup at all. It's too much of a roller coaster. Too many duds do not outweigh the 2 good games that he's had. I think Evan Engram is back to where he was a couple of years ago, and that's in the graveyard. That's not a good place to be.
Well, I'm assuming with both you guys saying he's dead, I'm assuming you both feel the same way. But for clarification's sake, is this one of those fallers? Because sometimes our fallers are some of our best buy candidates. Is this a faller that's like, just let him fall and let him die?
Let him die.
Or is it somebody that you're buying on the low?
Let him die, man. Like, he could come back, but like at this point, is he droppable in Dynasty? I know that's crazy to say, but like he's not out. He had 3 targets, I think, this week for no catches. It's
I don't think he's droppable, Jag. I just think it's just he's a roster clogger at this point, which kind of sucks. But like he's still at the age of point, like he can go somewhere else and fill a role and be viable again. Like if somebody dropped Evan Engram, I would swoop him up unbelievably fast. Now, I guess it depends on your roster depth, but let's just assume you play in a 25-man league with taxi squads. Like there's always a role. There's that 9th receiver you have that you don't want to cut that you can cut. Right, like out there. I'm sure some people probably still have Amari Cooper in their rosters, but I think, yeah, does it suck? But at least that's one position, like the tight end, where like you can just show up somewhere and then all of a sudden be usable again and be viable, right? Yeah. So for a tight end, like I will hold on as long as possible and let them clog my roster because I just need you to slide in that 1 year here or 1 year there to be viable because you're in that mix with all the other guys outside the top 8. Like there's no difference in you than having like Hunter Henry. Like, but yeah, you're going to start Hunter Henry, so there's a big usage, but like overall value wise, like Hunter Henry could be unusable tomorrow, and nobody'd feel any different about where they're going to value Hunter Henry. Where Evan Engram is declining in value, yes, and it sucks to have those kind of players on your roster, but I definitely wouldn't cut them.
Well, let's move on to Jordan Mason here, and Jordan Mason is our second faller. Didn't get the number 1 spot, but back-to-back weeks with under 5 points, only 4.7 points this week, and with the injury to Aaron Jones, coming off a 20-something point game, it looked like, hey, wheels up for Jordan Mason. This is his opportunity to really take this role. And he just hasn't. Now, I get that the Vikings offense overall hasn't been great up until this week, and we will definitely be getting to that. But he just hasn't done anything with his opportunity. Now, we didn't list it because it sounds like Aaron Jones is going to be playing next week. Yeah. There was a shoulder thing for Aaron Jones as well, an AC joint, something or other. But from all reports, it sounds like it's not a big deal. It sounds like he's going to play through it. So I still think it's going to be a committee role. But even if it wasn't, Rich, would you feel confident in him? Because when Aaron Jones was gone, he still was on good games, putting up 11 and 12 points.
Yeah, I think what it is like from a devalue standpoint, I think, again, you kind of know what you finally have with Jordan Mason. And he's just a ground and pound running back, not involved in the passing game. It's a 50-50 split for the most part, but Aaron Jones is getting all the target share, right? Like I think overall from a team standpoint, he's seeing about 10%, but he's getting all the targets from the running back standpoint. And the only way to be optimistic about Jordan Mason is he's the red zone guy. Like he's inside that 10-yard line. He's getting those carries. He's gonna get most of them, unless JJ McCarthy he had that one rushing touchdown. Jordan Mason's getting the Russian red zone targets. And this is the offense that can move the football. But anytime you're dependent on a running back just finding the end zone, and that's it from a fantasy standpoint, again, he got 85 yards, which is a really good NFL game, to get you 8 points. Like we say this all the time, you're just better off finding those PPR guys. Like I'd rather chase the upside of a Trevion Henderson in a PPR game around like from that standpoint. He's no different than a Tyler Algier behind a Bijan Robinson, essentially.
I'd say he's
honestly, I'd rather Algier.
Yeah,
because
sure.
if he gets the role, he's got the role.
Yeah, so I think it's just more of like, I think it's real clear cut. Like, you got a little optimistic about Jordan Mason when they did that extension. Like, Aaron Jones is old, even though Aaron Jones was really efficient, one of the most efficient years he had last year ever at his age. He still looks like he's still an efficient running back. So it's going to be a 50-50 split this year. Even Aaron Jones moved on after this year. I think Jordan Mason his contract is movable, but they're still going to bring in a guy. This is a team that you could look to draft a Jeremiah Love, sign a J.K. Dobbins, something along those lines. Bring in a running back.
This is another Breece Hall potential destination that would be 100%. Really attractive.
So it's just kind of like you had a window there to move him. You know, when Aaron Jones got hurt, I feel like he just is what he is. He looked better in San Francisco because all those running backs look good in San Francisco in that scheme. Just is what it is. Basically, just a Jag is what he is.
Not me, but
not you.
I would say I'm a little bit higher that he's better than a Jag, because I think the more I was listening to you and kind of just formulating why he's not been well. And I mean, Carson Wentz has been what he's been. He wasn't bad. He was a serviceable backup. The offensive line was hurt, but he's kind of a poor man's David Montgomery in a sense, where like he doesn't have that great of an offensive line that David Montgomery has to really depend on him having an explosive run. So you're basically got a flex player that you hope falls into the end zone in a 50-50 split with a guy who's getting all the PPR touches. So it's a bit frustrating. And I guess he's like a high-end roster clogger. I want to call him a roster clogger because he's almost like a borderline starter clogger. When you have him on your roster, depending on your depth, you're kind of putting him in your flex and praying, and that kind of sucks too. You know,
low-end flex players, man. That's what they are. Yeah. Like, those guys are around, like those low-end flex players, which, again, you want to have those guys as like emergency depth, bye-week fillers. Injury goes down to get you through for a week, but like to rely on those guys for the ultimate goal is where where the hang-up lies, right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, and there's two kind of like those, you know, back end of your starting like possibility guys. You have the ones that are, okay, I'm going to put him in there because I know he'll get enough touches, but I don't think the ceiling's there. And then there's the other guys that you put in and like, I don't know, there's like no floor here, but at least there's a ceiling. You know, he's the floor guy where you put him in and it's like, I know he's going to get enough touches. He'll probably only get me like 7-8 points, but you know, like it's points. And then there's other guys you put in where, you know, like a Yoshivas or something like that, where it's like, he could get 0. He could get absolutely nothing, but he could get 18 because he plays for Cincinnati and they throw the ball a ton.
Yep.
So, you know, like those are kind of the two spectrums of those types of players.
Yeah. And I think the fallback, again, it doesn't mean I don't think he's a low-end flex player. He's a guy you can plug in, and he could, like I said before, he could have 45 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns easily in this offense.
Yes.
Very easily. So, like, he's still capable of giving you big points. Like, you can go way worse than a guy like Jordan Mason. I think from a value standpoint, if there's any hope that, like, Jordan Mason was going to be the starter running back in Minnesota and get, like, majority of the carries and work, like, that's, I think that's dead in the water. I think we see very clearly how this offense is going to work. Same thing point of Aaron Jones, right? Like, it's a 50-50 split. Goal line touches, red zone, Jordan Mason, all the targets go into Aaron Jones. Pretty cut and dry, I think, is what more a better definition of it.
Absolutely. All right, let's get to our biggest faller this week. And it ended up, we went with the rookie Matthew Golden on this one. Now, he is not a faller in the sense of we're going to give up on him. He's dead to us. Like, it is still his rookie year. There is still a lot that can evolve in changing this scheme, this offense, this player. But at least for me, and I won't speak for you guys, but I'll speak for me. Coming in, I was already skeptical that he was a first-round wide receiver. To me, I did not have a first-round grade on him. I thought he was a good guy to stretch the defense, but if you wanted him to profile as a wide receiver 1 on your team and X, alpha, you know, whatever you want to call it, like, I didn't think his profile fit that. I thought it fit more of a Z, maybe a slot guy, like, but you know, you match him up against some of the best. I didn't see it there with his play. Then you factor in that he was never really a super productive player at Texas until the college football playoffs. And that is something that can propel guys. And we've seen it happen. And he was, one of the poster child for that, with him and Will Howard, those guys really propelled their game because of that. But all of that being said, I was already skeptical. Then he was a guy that, we looked at his blocking, and his blocking really wasn't there. And that was part of the reason Jayden Reed didn't get as many snaps as he got in the past, or we wanted him to get, was because he wasn't on the field for a lot of those 2 wide receiver sets because he didn't block very well. So then you add in another guy that's not going to block well, and then you add in like Christian Watson's coming back and getting healthy. Romeo Doubs is playing well. And look, I know that there's a lot of contract stuff that's going to clear up, but when I look at this long term, you add in the potential shoulder injury. We don't know how bad that is. But just where, it's weird to say this about a first-round wide receiver, but where does he fit regularly in this offense? And I think that's what I don't know. Jayden Reed comes back. Christian Watson's healthy. Tucker Kraft's back next year. All of these things, where does this guy fit to give you regular fantasy points? And I just don't know where that is. So, Jagger, do you have a better idea of how this guy fits and produces for us long-term?
No, because I have further negatives. And
add on.
I will begin by saying that I think Matthew Golden is an opportunity buy, and I'll elaborate on that a little bit. But I think you nailed what I said. I didn't think he was a first-round receiver. I thought he might have been a high-end second because of the upside, and it's for multiple things, where he's a lot like Jordan Addison, but arguably worse, just because he does not play well with man coverage. If you press him, he just can't get free. A lot of issues with that. And then on top of that, what you said about the fit and everything within this offense. So reason why I say he's an opportunity buy, because this offense could open up in the future. It is a rookie year. He is a first round player. But the reason why I say it's opportunity only and not priority is because of the reasons that you said, Garrett. And it's proven right now he's good against zone, but he can easily be shut down with man coverage and doesn't profile as an alpha. This is why I don't think he's a priority buy. I'm not going out there and trying to get all the Matthew Golden, but if I'm a rebuilder, I might try to get him in a bulk deal,
Mm-hmm. But you, Rich?
You guys summed it up to a T, really. Christian Watson's just a better take it off the top player than Matthew Golden is right now. He's not the route runner that, even a Jayden Reed when Jayden Reed comes back, which, kind of a little optimistic. Hopefully Jayden Reed can get back here soon, because now he has a really good opportunity here to produce and kind of show that he's could be the number one in this offense. Right now it's Romeo Doubs who's seen over 20% of the targets. Weekend, he's the clear-cut number one now with Tucker Kraft gone. But I think Christian Watson's the biggest benefit here. Matthew Golden, you're right, Garrett. This is a player whose tape, was inconclusive, I guess. Again, because, the way they to be fair to him, the way Texas used him and Isaiah Bond wasn't really enough to show it. But, there's nothing that excite us about the tape on those players either. So it just – there's nothing here that shows – he's going to be fantasy football relevant. And we know we have those benchmarks of as a rookie coming in over 500 receiving yards. I don't think he's going to clear any of those benchmarks either. And those are historical data that literally over the years always proves to be.
It's 97% accurate.
Yeah. Is he any going to be different than a Rashad Bateman? Along those lines. So
rookie face plants, man.
Yeah. It's where sometimes in those rookie drafts, you have to be wary of the first round pedigree. And I think and listen, NFL is smarter than any podcaster out there, right? NFL GMs are going to be smarter than podcast hosts. And sometimes I know not all, I know it's hard for the most part. We're right from a right standpoint. Doesn't mean they're always going to be right more than everybody else, but they'll have guys that you're like, oh, I'm surprised he's a first round pick that goes in there, and then they actually do produce. But
Sure.
At least those guys you do know right away, right? They clear those $500 benchmarks. They're using the offense. They're making explosive plays. You kind of know early on. And right now, there's no optimistic hope whatsoever for me for Matthew Golden. You're hoping you still use his rookie first round pedigree to you said throw in. He could top the scales on a trade.
Yeah, and if you took him and you're a contender and you took him, I'm happy doing the opposite too, with what Jagger was saying. Like, and I'm fine buying him in a rebuild if you can get him on the super cheap. Somebody's panicked, cool. But on the flip side, if I'm a contender and I need a player to help me win this year, he's still got enough name cachet, and he's still young, obviously, where he could still net you a nice piece or be the add-on to another player to kind of upgrade. And so I think he's a very liquid asset either way, right?
Yeah, a perfect player like example of where it's hard, like the trade for Devontae Adams, right? Who's a 32-year-old receiver who still looks fantastic. Like people are still asking for a first, right? Like it's hard to pay a first for a 32-year-old receiver. But Matthew Golden might be the kind of player where like, hey man, I want to win now. Maybe I'll get another year out of Devontae Adams. He's producing right now for sure. If he resigns in LA, I have a whole another year of Devontae Adams in this offense. Like, okay, I'll pay Matthew Golden for that, right? Like that's, and that team's not like a contender. That's like the kind of player like you can go get with a Matthew Golden. I feel pretty comfortable about. I think Devontae Adams would be like the perfect. Again, we're talking very specific terms here of teams like that, but that's like the perfect example of somebody I can go get. Maybe even like somebody doesn't have a lot of confidence, like a Rico Dowdle right now because they don't know about him long term. Who's I think since he came in. Started being the guy over the last 5 weeks is like running back 3 overall. Like maybe like there's a path to get like a Rico Dottle for a Matthew Golden.
Michael Pittman Jr.
What's that?
Michael Pittman Jr.
Oh, I'd easily be happy to take a Michael, but he's only 28. That'd be a huge win. But yeah, any player that's not loved in overall eyes of Dynasty, or like, hey, here's Matthew Golden plus this draft pick, whatever that draft pick may be, to get another player as well.
All right. Mentioning Matthew.
Sorry. Are we switching to the buys?
We are. Go ahead. Or the rises.
I forgot to mention this last week on our main shows. I just want to remind everybody that we do have a data hub now on the website, which is really detailed on the website, but in the Dynasty GM app as well. I just want to remind everybody that we've been working on that for well over a year. I think it's a fantastic tool. There's a ton of people out there right now that pay a large amount of money to have like these data hubs. Like they use these websites just for their data hubs. Yeah. We add it to our website and our Dynasty app, the Dynasty GM, for free to all our existing users. And I just want to let everybody know that you have an opportunity right now to jump in. As the end of the season here, this is like really we're starting to enter like the heart of the Dynasty season where like, hey, you're making trades, you're really changing the overall structure of your team, and you're going to really start jumping into the rookie class, which we just had a massive film room update to our film room. I think another 80 things of film of our R22 film room where you can watch cut-ups of players in a matter of minutes, and it's all 22 film. All that right now, you can get that and the data hub. We're offering 20% off with the addition of the data hub. Anytime we add a new tool to our arsenal, we want to open it to the public at an affordable cost for them to get like as a trial basis. So if you have never been a member of the Dynasty Nerd Herd, this is a great time. Use the promo code Data Hub at checkout. Data Hub, one word, and you'll get 20% off your annual first installment, which is a great value this time. And I'll say the film room alone is worth it, but if you want to get into that Data Hub right now, you can filter it by position, team, seasons going all the way back to 2020, even rolling weeks and stat minimums, then dive into air yards, yards per route run, yards per target, target share, all that good stuff is in the data hub. You can compare it to just to certain players. So many different ways to play around that. And what's awesome as well, if you have the app, is now we're in position because we've been working on this data hub for so long. They had all these other tweaks we've had for the GM that we want to get in there as well. I do think it's the number one tool in Dynasty Fantasy Football today, along with all the stuff you get on the website. Use that Data Hub code, 20% off, and dive in and really kind of get a really good in-depth with the Dynasty GM, the League Analyzer, the Trade Calculator, the Trade Finder, the Data Hub, all these tools to 100% guarantee you'll be a better Dynasty player because of it. So just want to get that out there.
Love it. All right, well, let's go ahead and get to our risers. We mentioned Michael Pittman Jr. He didn't quite make the list, but 3 straight games over 20 points, been playing very well. Parker Washington, partly due to those injuries, and he's been getting some volume even when they've been on the field. 17 points for him this week. But the guys that we actually want to discuss and talk about are number 3 riser of the week, Colston Loveland, 29.8 points, tied for the team lead in receptions and was second in targets. And he had those 2 touchdowns, one the big long game sealing touchdown, which was, I mean, honestly, that was probably one of the most fun games of the year to watch. Just the back and forth between the Bears and the Bengals, and it seemed like, you know, one team lost all hope and then the other one lost all hope, and then, like, it was just back and forth, and it was very, very fun game to watch. Terrible though, because it seemed like I played every possible Joe Flacco and Caleb Williams I could have possibly played this week, so that kind of sucked. But other than that, that's how it goes sometimes. Colston Loveland, you know, we were talking before, Jagger, about how good this tight end class is, and you know, I think you made the comment that it was either you or Andrew, one of you made the comment that we need to start talking about this as one of the best we've seen in a long time because of all of the guys that are producing. And if we get another first round player that can, obviously he's not going to be getting us 2 touchdowns every week, but can start to become a consistent, you know, 13 to 15 point asset per week, all of a sudden this class just looks unreal.
Yeah, that was 100% me. That was like, yeah, this is one of the best ever, because we got Arondé Gadsden. We weren't talking about like the way we are now, and he's taken off. But Colston Loveland has been slow to really come on in this offense, and it's just been injury, man. He's a rookie. Tight end is notoriously hard to figure out because you're both a blocker and a receiver, so that's learning 2 different levels of the offense. Ben Johnson has a very complex offense, so to say he's a riser, this is a weird one, you know, just because you're like, hey, he's mainly just playing like the way we thought he was going to play if he would have just been on the field all throughout the offseason. But yeah, man, if Colston Loveland continues to do this, especially with Cole Kmet out a little bit, this is already one of the best ever, and there's still room for other guys to come on later, just because we know how late tight end can be sometimes.
Absolutely. Rich, I know you're a tight end slut. How are you feeling about this?
Yeah, I mean, listen, he went where he won the draft for a reason. He was the number 1 tight end, you know, for a reason. He's this unbelievably talented receiver tight end. Garrett, Jagger, you mentioned injury, like it was going to take a little bit of time for him to acclimate in this offense. Tight ends always do. I said it's going to take. We know his true value, you know, when TJ Moore gets off this roster. I think it's going to be him and Rome as the 1-2 in this offense. I think it's going to be pretty clear. Both have top 10 draft pedigree as well. And this shows you what you can get out of Colston Loveland. This shows you why you took him where you took him in your draft. Like, because this is what you can get, games like this. And it's good to get a glimpse. And who are you going to get a glimpse against? A team like the Bengals, right? With a terrible defense. Their defense is literally atrocious. And once Trey Hendrickson goes down and goes out, this defense is so bad, the offensive players are now literally calling them out on camera. Like this past week, Chase Brown called him out really badly. You know, Jamar Chase gaslighted him essentially. He was like, "Yo, I don't want to say anything bad about defense, so they don't come and complain about me about my offense." Chase Brown was calling him out literally like, "Dude, these guys got to effing finish, right? Because this is ridiculous. Like they can't get one stop." Like Jamar Chase walks off the field like yelling, "One stop, dude!" Yelling. So the fact that Colston Loveland, same thing with Kyle Monangai. Kyle Monangai looked absolutely fantastic, right?
Don't get to him yet. We're about to. Hold on.
Saying, like, for me, like, I don't get overly excited. Like, you know, I like to see that players can produce, right? Like, I do love that. But I don't get like overly excited when they do it against the Miami Dolphins, when they do it against the Cincinnati Bengals, right? Like, it's like, okay, those are like the worst NFL defenses in the NFL. Like, they're so bad. Like, you need to do well. But like, I do get excited about what a player can do. Like, so I love to see, like, but again, like Jagger said, is this some big rise in my rankings? No, because I always knew Colston Loveland could be a really good fantasy tight end. It's why he went where he went in the NFL draft. Like, he's not rising up my boards. Like, he's exactly who I thought he could possibly be. It just, but I think
when we talk about risers, though, we don't necessarily just mean our rankings. We mean in the general like community.
Yes, and I will say this: if you go back over, like, say, the last 3 to 4 weeks, Colston Loveland has had a really steady drumbeat of usage here in yards. Like, he's really starting, like Jagger said, really starting to come into his own here. real excited for either my late season push here or like most likely 2026. Like I'm really excited to see like what this offense is. I think we're going to know what this offense looks like in its true form. And I think it's going to look really good for Dynasty in 2026 with Rome. I think it's going to be Rome. I think it's going to be Colston Loveland. I think Luther Burden's going to be kind of like that slot a receiver out there. But I think Colston Loveland and Rome Odunze really solidify themselves in 2026 as dominant Dynasty players. So excited for that. And this is what you get to see for a guy like Colston Loveland. Stud.
Yeah. He was my number one pre-draft. He was my number one tight end. Now I flipped it post-draft because I thought of the opportunity and things like that in the offenses. But pre-draft, he was my number one tight end for a reason. I mean, when we saw his movement skills, when we saw his ability to be able to go up and get the football, the strong hands at the catch point, and I think he was, because of how good Tyler Warren was after the catch, I think a lot of people kind of diminished Colston Loveland, but he's still an athlete. He is still a very good player. He can do a little bit after the catch too. He doesn't just catch the ball and fall down. So, there is some of that ability as well. So really, really talented player. If you are going to buy him, this is not the week to do it because now everybody's going to want the moon and the stars for him. With this offense, they're not playing Cincinnati every week. There's going to be some dips again in production. Wait for the dips to buy then, because he's going to have a very good and long successful career. But this is not the week to buy.
And there's dips. There's always dips. I mean, speaking of tight end, we were literally just talking this week about our overall top 10s, right? And I said, I was like, man, because we were talking like, oh, Brock Bowers, like these guys are close. I was like, no. I was like, guys, still nobody's close to Brock Bowers. I think just because he hasn't played in 3 weeks, like I think people are like forget about like they have amnesia. We were talking about that, like, oh well, these guys aren't that far off. I don't think from being the number one guy. I was like, not for me. I was like, literally, I have Brock Bowers in my top 10 of a startup pick, and like my next guy, like call it like Trey McBride, is like in the low 20s. And I was like, so if anything, if there's any dip on Brock Bowers, please buy him. Sure enough, Brock Bowers' first full week back healthy comes back and just shows everybody, hey, the unicorn's still here, baby. He's still here. I am the GOAT. Like he's. I told my son this week too. I was like, I know that he's only 22. I was like, that guy's going to be he's going to retire the greatest tight end of all time. I just want you to know that. He's like, better than Travis Kelce, Dad? I'm like, well, first of all, Gronkowski's better than Travis Kelce. I was like, yes, he's going to be better than all those guys, 100%.
I love you so much, Rich. Like you just, like you just jumped Jared Wackerly in the rankings. I'm gonna text Jay Wack right now. It's like Rich is better than you, dog. This is MySpace. This is MySpace, and I'm adjusting the ranks right now.
That's always my goal, right? How do I get to that number one, top 2 spot? Let me get in there.
The real question is, what song was playing when people popped in?
That was true. That was
Lincoln Park. Lincoln Park during the time, man. They were my favorite band back in the day.
I like to log back my MySpace, see what the last song I had on there. I think and I don't know why I would remember this. I think it was The Con by like Tegan and Sarah for some reason. I think the song just came out.
What?
The song just came out. And that's like I put it as my last song on my MySpace account. I went back.
Fantastic. All right, let's get to our number 2 riser. Same team. We had 2 Bears on the rise this week. Kyle Monangai gets the opportunity with DeAndre Swift out this week. Nearly 200 total yards in Swift's absence. 22.8 points in the game. And just imagine if he would have actually scored a touchdown. He did all of that without getting in the end zone. Ridiculous weekend. And as we mentioned before, Cincinnati, one of the worst defenses in the NFL overall. So it's not a surprise, but this is what you want to see. Good players beat up on bad teams. We saw some other guys like Ja'Cory Krusky-Merritt has had kind of all the opportunity in the world and just hasn't really seemed to do anything with it. This guy, when he was given his opportunity, he's shown it. And, the drumbeat was going for a few weeks already, that more involved in the offense, becoming more of a 50-50 split in snap share. And it was all kind of trending in the right direction. And once you kind of let this guy out, it was impressive to watch. He had really good vision. There were some nice cutbacks that he had, ran through some guys' faces that I loved seeing that personally. The physicality of, that's something that drives me nuts sometimes is on short yardage plays. And this is playing, running back. And granted, this was high school and I played linebacker in college. So it's not the same at all as these guys. But that's one of the things that drives me nuts when I see short yardage plays and goal line plays is a ton of dancing in the backfield. Sometimes it's just I got to lower the pads and I got to push. Like I got to run somebody over. We saw that out of Kyle Monangai in this game. I still don't think DeAndre Swift is going away. I still think DeAndre Swift's going to be involved. I still think he's going to be catching passes. But I think this was the cherry on top. And Rich, I'll let you talk about it, and then we'll go to Jagger because, Jagger, I know you were really high on him preseason like I was. But I think this is tough to just go back to, okay, DeAndre Swift's the guy, and then Kyle Monangai is going to relieve him. I think we have now gone to a full-blown committee for these two guys. What do you think, Rich?
Yeah, pre-draft process, Kyle Monangai, and to be fair, very similarly, a guy who's now on an NFL team, Damian Martinez, were two players that we kind of identified as like two running backs we kind of really liked their tape on. We're concerned about like how they fit into an NFL offense from a fantasy standpoint because we know how they'd be involved in a passing game. I think a couple of things I took away from this, again, taking away the Bengals defense as a big proponent here is what Kyle Monangai showed us is like he saw a 13% target share. That was something that kind of like took me aback on that they used him in that role and that he could succeed in that role as well. So that's very encouraging for Kyle Monangai and his future. Like I said last week, though, like I do believe DeAndre Swift is having a really good football year. This is not going to take anything away from DeAndre Swift from being probably the starting running back. But I am with you on probably this is going to be more of a split than it was before, right? Which is we saw that can work definitely in the Ben Johnson offense. Mm-hmm. I'm going to kind of project here a little bit farther, actually, and think like, yes, Kyle Monangai, big rise. If he gets the opportunity at any point, we know he could be a very studly running back. What I'm seeing on this offense right now, what it's doing for DeAndre Swift, what it just did for Kyle Monangai is what I'm getting real excited about, and I have bookmarked mentally, is whatever running back that comes after Kyle Monangai and DeAndre Swift that they invest in for any, whether it be a second-round draft pick, a free agency sign-in, is going to get a massive boost in my want ad because this offense really supports a running back really well from a fantasy football standpoint. We know they invest in the offensive line this offseason more as well. It's looking good there. I just know, like, I don't know if Kyle Monangai is the answer long-term or if they're going to run with DeAndre Swift for the next couple of years. That's totally cool too. But like right now, I think it's going to be hard to see which one. I want to see them both now on the field together, see how it's going to really translate from a fantasy football standpoint. But just from a mental standpoint, this will now get a quarterback in Shanahan's offense, the number one receiver in Shanahan's offense. Things a lot, the quarterback in a Kevin Connell offense. Like I now know the running back in this offense could be a fantasy football elite tier player if they have any kind of like upper echelon talent, right? Again, just imagine Breece Hall in this offense. Like just like you could say a lot of different offenses, but like how good that would look in this offense. So I am kind of keeping that in my mind. Like, man, if there's any change to this offense soon, like I will give a bump to that player specifically for land. Like sometimes you get bumps to players in the systems they land in. This has been dog marked for me, that offense. But yeah, Kyle Monangai looked great against a really shitty Cincinnati defense. Good for him. Like, but I like the player too. So this isn't like, this whatever. Like Kyle Monangai has been on our radar since February. So very happy for him that he showed he succeeded. But having DeAndre Swift there is kind of a little bit of a lag on potential future production.
All right, let's hear it, Jagger.
Garrett, I'm not pitching to you. I'm not trying to bring you to Jesus. He already lives in your heart. Rich, my boy. Over here.
Come on.
You're close. You're looking at the doors. And you're almost there. Here's my pitch for him. You're correct that this was the Bengals. And DeAndre, what's crazy is I love both of these players. I've been a DeAndre Swift truther for a long time. I know what he is as a player, and this offense has finally given him what gets the most out of his skill set. I am not going to talk about these players as individual talents because I think, let's just keep it simple, stupid. They are a poor man's Detroit right now. I would even take it a step further. You might be homeless, like you're at this point and you just need something to get going. That's fine. You're going to get a 1-2 punch. They're both startable and usable. The future is where a lot of people worry. And you bring up a point about whoever comes in this offense in this offseason. It would have to be in free agency for me to be really worried, or there's only 2 running backs that I feel confident that can come in here and really affect either one of these guys. And it's Jeremiah Love. And I actually think Justice Haynes would be perfect for this offense, but I think that would just be better to replace Swift. This next class in 2026, I don't think there's a real danger, especially with all the holes in this Bears defense. They still somehow need offensive line. Where I'm worried about the future. So I'll take it a step further that I think Kyle Monangai is a safe buy if someone is willing to sell at this point. And I think the future is bright for all these offensive pieces that are not DJ Moore or Olamide Zaccheaus. I just have to say that. So
yeah, and I want to. So if it is Kyle Monangai, right? It's the guy. Like I'm super excited for him too. Like again, I am excited for him. I am like you said, DeAndre Swift is a nice player too. So I'm talking about from a Rye standpoint. I guess it's if you drafted him where you got Kyle Monangai, you're unbelievably excited, right? Because now we talked about like these running backs, pretty early on if you got something or not. You have something with Kyle Monangai. Like if given the opportunity, like you have something solidified as a good asset that you feel really good about starting. So I got a couple of Kyle Monangai shares. I got him in my lineup this week, and boy, am I glad I did. So yeah, I'm excited to have Kyle Monangai, but like it sucks when you have those good players and like they're like hampered down by other good players, like a DeAndre Swift. Like same thing. If you have J.K. Dobbins and R.J. Harvey right now, like you're happy to have both, but boy, don't you just wish one of them was there? Like, same thing. David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs. Like, man, I wish one guy was just getting all the touches.
Only thing worse is when you have a good guy behind a bad guy. Shout out to Trevion Henderson.
Yeah, Terrell Jennings getting a goal line carry. Hey, shout out to Trevion Henderson. Saw a 20% target share though this week.
He did. All right, let's get to our number 1 riser of the week, JJ McCarthy.
Told you.
He heads in. Huh?
Told you it's good.
Well, let's slow our roll real quick because Detroit has one of the worst passing defenses in the NFL. So very similar to Cincinnati. But I will say this, as a guy that's lukewarm on JJ McCarthy, definitely moved up my rankings this week. I honestly, and I don't even really care that much that Detroit has a bad pass defense. I really don't. I needed to see, can JJ function in this offense? Can he hit guys in stride? Can he play in rhythm? And I at least saw that this week. So now I know that there is at least a baseline for me. And that was a big thing that I was worried about. Like, I need to see at least a baseline. Then we can debate, okay, can he get into quarterback 1 status or not? And, that kind of stuff. Like, we can debate that later. I need to see the baseline. And I think we got that out of JJ McCarthy this week. And he did it right away off the rip. We saw it over the course of the game. He still had rushing upside as well, which was good. I know he didn't run a ton, but he did get a rushing touchdown. So 3 total touchdowns in that game, including 1 rushing, 2 passing, did have the 1 INT. But when you play in these games, you play in games that are, regardless of the defense, games that are going to determine your team's success or lack thereove this season, because Detroit is a team that is looking to make a deep playoff run. Minnesota, we weren't sure. We going into the season, we were hoping so, but they've hit some bumps in the road. Now with a game like this, now that's something that can be talked about again. So, Rich, I know that you were one of, if not the highest, on JJ McCarthy. So what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've made myself pretty clear on my JJ McCarthy stance. I even said last week when we were talking about quarterback overall rankings, and where you guys were like, oh, wow, you're pretty still high on JJ, huh? And I was like, I'm not bending, for a guy who hasn't even gone on the field yet to prove me wrong. Like, I'm not going to just all of a sudden, like, just blow up. I've been sitting here. I was like, who am I to sit here and preach a quarterback for literally 9 months, like on our show, and how much I believe in him. Now all of a sudden, like just to all of a sudden change my mind because he hasn't been in the field because he's been hurt. No, and you summed it up to a T, Garrett. His first game back, played on rhythm, and I really liked his ball placement a lot. Like he put the ball in some really good spots for his receivers, used his legs when he needed to, looked athletic, loved everything about JJ McCarthy. I still believe he's a quarterback one long term. I love his youth. I love his system. I love the weapons around him. I think this is easy a player that I would play in a super flex league 2 first for. No problem whatsoever. Even the coveted 27 first, I have no problem paying that for a quarterback. I think he's a long-term anchor for any dynasty team. And I think he'll have weeks where he does really well, but like I'm comfortable with what he did this week. He was like quarterback, I think 12 right now going into the week, right around there, like overall, scored almost 20 points, nothing overly crazy, I think this week, but like had a really good game nonetheless.
Yeah.
And the thing is, he is so young in this offense. Like you can see that baseline where he could turn into an excellent quarterback, like an excellent quarterback. He's only got a handful of snaps in actual NFL games in his career so far. So it's one of those players that I'm really excited to watch as he matures into an NFL quarterback over the next couple of years. And I'm really excited to see JJ McCarthy and like what he can do in going forward in the future, 2026, 2027, 2028. I think he's a cornerstone player of where he's at. He's like a Brock Purdy, like in that category, maybe a player that might not ever be quarterback 1, 2 overall. He's not the Drake May, maybe not even the upside of a guy like Jackson Dart potentially, but I think he does have that kind of upside, but maybe he doesn't. Maybe he just turns into that Brock Purdy where year in, year out, he's quarterback 6, 7, 8, 9 in that range. Championship caliber player, top 15 overall scorer player. So I was real excited to see what I saw. Like everything you mentioned, his ball placement, the rhythm in his offense, the way he was able to use his legs. Like what a great first game for him versus a team that he had to make plays, right? Like he had to move the ball downfield. You're right. And we talk about this, like that's what you want to see. Cause we've seen some players like, Bijan shows up to the worst run defense ever and he scores 7 points. Like what's going on here? Like, yes, like I don't want to use as a negative against a guy like Kyle Monangai as well, but like when you have those opportunities, that's where you have to produce, right? Like if you're given opportunity, you have to seize it in the NFL. Like you can't have those kind of duds. Definitely when like you don't have the track record to lean against, like a guy like Kyle Monangai. Okay, here's your opportunity. You have to seize that moment. So when JJ McCarthy's coming in, a lot of people are going, yeah, man, Carson Wentz, why'd they put him out there if they knew he was hurt? Is it because of JJ McCarthy? Are they scared of JJ McCarthy? Do they need to bring another quarterback? When you come in there and you come in your first game back, you can solidify yourself and look that way. You shut up a lot of the critics. You answer a lot of questions. But listen, this is the NFL. That's just one game, 1 week. You gotta keep producing week in, week out. But for me, as somebody who's been pounding the table for a player, I'm not saying I'm not gonna sit here and like, oh, see, I told you. Like I was joking when I said, see, I'm right. I told you so. Right. It is a breath of fresh air or a release of some of that pressure going, okay, man, I put myself on the line for this player. At least he, like you said, establish that baseline of truth.
Yeah, I needed this game. I'm not a JJ McCarthy hater, but I was a JJ McCarthy concerner. Really, I'm just concerned about the lack of reps and snaps. And, like he had one season where he played well, but I'm all about the opportunity. I believe in this offense. I believe in the coaching staff. And I was also ones that were concerned, like, why are they so slow to get him out here? Like, clearly Carson Wentz is only doing so much for you and you're a competitive team. And it felt like they were hiding him coming out. Even, you could say the Lions are hurt or whatever. They're not the Bengals. Let's put it that way. Even with hurt, right. And to come out and have a commanding game, I really needed this game to have confidence that, this is their guy in the future and not someone they're thinking, we might have drafted too high and we might need to Jordan love him for another year or so.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So great game for him. Did what he needed to do with the opportunity. And for me, he will be, so we talk about some of these guys like Colston Loveland. Is he really going to move that much? I don't know. But, like Kyle Monangai is going to take another step up for me this week. JJ McCarthy is going to take a solid step up for me this week. So when I adjust my rankings on Tuesday or Wednesday, he is going to move. So excited to do that and see where he kind of falls.
Going back to the basement, a solid baseline guy who's moved down was significantly. Like, I think this move could have been made before, which I would have done. Like, who do you feel like long-term upside? CJ Stroud or JJ McCarthy?
Rushing for JJ McCarthy, and he's got a better offensive line right now. Even their offensive line isn't even as healthy as it could be, and it's just better than the Texans. So yeah,
absolutely. All right, guys. Well, that wraps up our Risers and Fallers episode. Thanks so much for tuning in. We've got more stuff every single day of the week, so make sure you're locked in, tuned in. Make sure you're subscribing and liking and commenting and giving us 5 stars and all the different things on all the different platforms. We appreciate it, guys. We'll see you next time.